It's been a long, interesting postseason, but we've finally arrived at the main event, being the NBA Finals. Only two teams remain standing and will battle it out to be crowned champions of the league, with those two teams, of course, being the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. This year's playoffs were one of the least predictable ones we've seen in quite some time, and along the way, there were plenty of upsets, surprises, disappointments, and unfortunately injuries that swayed quite a few of the series, but despite all of that, it has still been one of the most fun playoffs in quite a while. The Suns and the Bucks absolutely deserve every bit of credit for making it this far, and the only thing left for them to do is battle it out for the crown. In today's video, we will be discussing everything about the NBA Finals series, previewing how each team match up with the other, what the strengths and weaknesses of each team are that could give them an edge, and then, in the end, I will be giving my prediction for who I believe will win this year's finals. Before we start though, it turns out about 61% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first team we'll be going over is the team that has been waiting the longest since they clinched a berth to the big dance, being the Phoenix Suns. The Suns have been one of the most pleasantly surprising teams all year long, and it's been so fun to watch them come together and continually prove everyone wrong and establish themselves as legitimate title contenders. Last season they finished the year on an 8-game win streak, going undefeated in the bubble, and in the offseason they went out and acquired future Hall of Famer Chris Paul, and all of that positive momentum carried over into this season, as they went on to finish with the second best record in the league in the regular season. Chris Paul has been one of the greatest players in the history of the game to play the point guard position, but throughout his entire career, there has always been unfortunate setbacks, time and time again, keeping him from making it to the finals. He's definitely not without blame for this being the case though, because there have been times where he individually came up short. However, the injury bug has seemingly struck with him in the most untimely of moments, especially in 2018 against the Warriors, so for him to finally get his chance now is incredibly well deserved. Now on to the basketball side of things. All success for the Suns obviously starts with their backcourt of Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Booker had a pretty inconsistent series against the Clippers, shooting only 38% from the field and 28% from 3 against them, and yet the Suns still won the series in 6 games. Some of this is obviously due to his youth and the fact that this is his first playoff run, so those factors can work against him and the team. However, he also did have a 40-point game in Game 1 of that series, and he really never looks fazed by the moment despite those inconsistencies. He can tend to force things a bit and take some bad shots here and there, but he's also an all-star caliber player and their go-to scorer, who has proven that he can confidently make those difficult shots, so it's not necessarily something to shy away from either. He's just going to have to make them in the long run. The Clippers did very well defending Booker, with Patrick Beverley in particular sticking on him, and the Bucks also have a lockdown perimeter defender in Jrue Holiday, so that is probably the biggest matchup to watch going into the series. Chris Paul seems to be back to full health too, which is huge for the Suns, and he just had the performance of a lifetime in their closeout game when he dropped 41 points, so they're officially firing on all cylinders. Paul doesn't always have to score, but he's still someone who can take over a game when necessary, which is exactly what you need in these kind of playoffs. Plus, the biggest X factor of all for the team is DeAndre Ayton, who is currently on one of the most silently great runs a big man has had in the playoffs. He's shooting 71% from the field in the postseason right now, which is far and away the highest field goal percentage a player has ever had in the playoffs, with Ayton's volume of attempts. He and Chris Paul run an amazing two-man game in the pick and roll, his touch around the basket has been money, and he exploits mismatches in the post. The Bucks have been at their best when they can play smaller ball lineups, but Ayton is going to ensure that those lineups get minimal opportunities to thrive. Then we can move on to the Suns bench, led by Cameron Payne, and they bring a level of energy that most bench units just can't match. Payne in particular has been balling out and hasn't allowed any drop-off in production or pace of play when he's subbed in and running the show. When the stars are on the bench, getting those rest minutes could honestly swing the series in those minutes, so having players like Payne that can come in off the bench and be as impactful as he's been, and others like Dario Saric, Cam Johnson, and Torrey Craig is a big advantage for Phoenix. This then marks a good time to transition to the other team in the finals, and we'll now get into the Bucks' chances. It's hard not to start with the fact that Giannis Antetokounmpo is currently injured, and his status is completely up in the air with him being doubtful in Game 1, and many injury reports also literally saying that his status is up in the air. He's uncertain at the moment, however the injury he suffered did look quite painful, and it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if he missed not only Game 1, but also maybe Game 2 as well, so all of that needs to be taken into consideration. Without Giannis, the Bucks did still manage to win both of their last 2 games they played against the Hawks in the conference finals to secure a spot in the finals, which shows that the Bucks are an incredibly deep and talented team alongside Giannis, and if you're expecting a Suns blowout, then you need to think again. Chris Middleton is still an all-star caliber player, and he showed it especially in Giannis's absence. Jrue Holiday has been a borderline all-star caliber player his entire career and has come through countless times in big moments, and their rotation players like Brook Lopez, PJ Tucker, and Bobby Portis, amongst others, all capably picked up the slack in the front court in Giannis's absence too. Now, obviously I'm not saying that being without Giannis isn't a concern at all, because obviously when you play without a multiple-time MVP winner and Defensive Player of the Year winner, it is a big loss, but all I'm saying is that you shouldn't completely write off the Bucks by any means because of it. I also do believe that Giannis will be back on the court sooner rather than later, even if he has to play through the injury, because quite frankly, this is why he re-signed with the Bucks last summer. Giannis remained loyal to the franchise that drafted him because he wanted to bring them a championship home to reward them for the faith that they had in him, and in a league like the NBA, there is no promise that you'll get another opportunity to win it all, so when you do make it this far, you need to capitalize. We've literally seen that be the case with Chris Paul, who has waited 16 years for a chance at his first finals, so Giannis will definitely want to get back on the court as soon as possible to help his team bring it home. This is a series that can define his legacy forever, because the finals are the biggest stage in the whole sport, so ultimately, whenever he returns to the court, that will decide the series. This is such a tight matchup where even if Giannis was fully healthy from the jump, it would still be a toss-up picking who would win it all. The Suns have a dynamic backcourt that can get you a bucket under any circumstance and have a hungrier than ever Chris Paul, which sets up perfectly for a matchup like this. But the Bucks this season were much more playoff ready for a run after bringing in Jrue Holiday in the offseason and have been way more balanced all around. Now for my prediction for how the series will go down, I'm going to give it based on a few circumstances. It seems probable that Giannis could miss the first 2 games of the series, and if that does happen, then the Bucks absolutely have to split those first 2 games. If the Bucks lose both of those first 2 games without him, then the series will end in 5 games in favor of the Suns. However, if they do split those games at 1 apiece, or if Giannis returns even earlier than that, then this becomes a completely different series. I do still think at full strength this would be a 7-game series, but in the end I personally favor the Phoenix Suns regardless. My official pick for who will win the NBA Finals is the Phoenix Suns, and in how many games will be completely reliant on how soon Giannis returns to the court. I just think this Suns group is playing their best basketball at the right time. Chris Paul is going to have an unbelievable series. I doubt Devin Booker's playoff shooting inconsistencies continue to the same degree that they were last series, and DeAndre Ayton should pose much more of a problem for the Bucks inside than any big man that they have faced yet. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think is going to win the finals this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.